Hey friends, welcome back to She's At It Again. My name's Tanya, and my husband mentioned to me the other day, do you have a recipe for those sourdough crackers we had with that dip, that caprese dip I made the video for the other day? And it occurred to me, I don't think I did, so I don't want to leave you in the dark. Now this is not something that I've written down. I've just kind of toyed with it. Probably for over a year now. Every time I make them, I try something different, and I think, you know what I could do is, and what I'm trying to do is get it to taste like a Ritz cracker. It's really never going to have the texture of a Ritz cracker as long as I use sourdough, because of the sourdough discard that I have to use is really sticky. I think I could probably do it if I toyed around with it enough, just regular flour, but not with sourdough. So I am going to show you how I make the sourdough crackers. And let me tell you, it's not for people with bad teeth, because these kind of turn out a little bit on the crispy side. Now, sometimes I overbake them, but that's fine. I don't mind eating those. But I'm talking about, because the kneading process, it's not the light, flaky, airy thing like a saltine or a Ritz cracker, but these are so incredibly good. So these are substantial enough to pick up any dip. You could probably make a dip out of concrete and pick that dip up with these crackers. So these are really good. So what I've done is, in my Cuisinart food processor, I have a 14 cup, which at the time I bought it was the largest capacity they have. I don't know if they go up bigger than that now, honestly, but that's the size I have. Oh wait, here's my spoon. I waited till my dryer went off, because I had to take care of that first. And in a few seconds, that's fixing to go off, and I got to take some bread out and roll it out. But real quick, I'm going to show you. I've got about 2 cups of organic, just plain flour in there. I'm going to put about a teaspoon of pink Himalayan salt. Y'all know I got this from Azure Standard, and it is like powder. Literally, it's the texture of baking soda. It's so fine. Now, with this mixture, I would say, I almost hate to say this, because people say, it was way too salty, you shouldn't use that much salt. But I'd rather err on the side of getting too much salt on it, because unlike normally I say you can always add more salt, but you can't take it away, with crackers, you can't really add to it unless you want to brush some butter or something on the top and sprinkle it on top. Then it's just going to fall off. But I'd rather have a cracker that's too salty, because normally dip is salty anyway. So anyway, we're going to put about a whole teaspoon of salt in there. We'll just go with that. Now what I want to do is add, I think I did a half cup the other day. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I had this really cold a while ago and had good intentions of using it when it was super cold, but then 2 loads of laundry caught my attention, and yeah, I went with that. Okay, I want this to, I don't want my butter to actually touch the food processor bowl. I want it to be in the flour. So we're going to take this, and basically what we're doing is encapsulating all those little tiny pieces of butter with flour, kind of like when you're making a pie crust. So we're going to pulse this, plug it in back here. Oh, I forgot, I've got a little chunk out of this bowl right here. I don't know how that happened, but I have to hold this down really hard or it flies out the back. It may fly out the back again. Yep, it is. Man, I don't know how that's happening. I've got flour going in places I don't even know what or how it made it in there. Okay, I'll show you what this looks like. This basically looks like chunky flour, just because there's butter in it now. All right, I got to roll out a loaf of bread. I'll be right back. Okay, sorry about the interruption. I got things going on. All right, so we have our flour, our salt, and our butter mixed in there, and I am going to, let's see, what do I want to do next? I do this different every time. I'm going to put a little bit of honey in this. I think that's what I did the other day. They turned out so good last time, I almost hate to do anything different, but since I don't really remember how I did it, I'm just guessing. All right, let's see how much I think I poured in there last time. I'm going to go with 3 to 4 tablespoons. And it really depends on how sweet you want them, but I just like the taste of Ritz crackers. And honey is sweeter than sugar, they say. It's a different taste, but they say it's sweeter. But it'll make these really sweet. Okay, just going to pulse it again. Again, still keeping the flour in a loose state, and it's not coming together in big giant clumps yet. Okay. This is what it looks like. Let me see if I can lean this over. Oops. Okay. Now you got to look at that. Get everything resituated on here. Microphones are the bane of my existence. I wasn't meant to have a microphone on me. All right, so this is my sourdough starter, and we will link the video that tells you all about sourdough starter and how to make sourdough. And every different place that you live, the sourdough is going to taste different. It's going to taste different if you live in the Pacific Northwest because of the ocean breeze coming in and the salt that travels through the air. It's going to taste different in Arkansas, where I live, and it's going to taste different in Florida. It's just, you're going to taste different in Italy. It's going to taste different in everywhere you live. Probably not so much to where you'd be able to tell where it's from, but I'm just saying, they say, and when I say they say, it's just research that I've read. They say it tastes different in each region. So Arkansas sourdough starter. But this is super easy to make, and all that is required is a good quality flour. So I use organic plain flour, and then a filtered water. I have a Berkey system, so we use Berkey water. Now here's the part that, I'm sorry, it's not very detailed. It's not really comprehensive because you're going to add enough starter. I'm just stirring it up because sometimes there's hooch, or like this gray liquid on the top. It's very fermented. It forms on the top, but I've added some to this the other day, and I normally keep a container about this big. I go through a lot of discard, but again, it's not discard at my house because I don't throw hardly anything away. But it just depends on how wet you want your dough. If you want it super thick and you're going to roll it out, those crackers are going to be dense. I mean, super dense. And maybe that's why mine was, you know, a little bit like a ceramic tile the other day, which was fine for me, but some people don't want that. If you want them more wet, you're just going to have to deal with adding more flour to it when you roll it out so it doesn't stick, and then placing them on the pan. But thicker is easier to work with, but maybe wetter is more palatable. I'll just leave it at that. All right, so I'm not sure how much I added the other day, but we're going to start with that. Looks like about 1/4 cup to me. I don't know. And also, if you do not have a food processor, I think this would work in a mixer, but you just won't be able to incorporate the butter into the flour like I did with this. You're just going to have to run the mixer until it incorporates that way, which is not impossible. It just takes a little bit of time. All right, again, pulse it. All right, that's still really dry and crumbly, so I'm going to add more starter to it. So again, we'll link that recipe for the starter, but again, all starter is flour and water, and it basically catches the wild yeast in the air around it. That's what gives it its rising capability later on, but also the fermentation process, that's what the sourdough part is. It's so good. You can just use this for so many things, really and truly. But I keep this in the fridge. So I don't keep this out on my counter. It stays in the fridge. It's just taking a nap, but it's still active in there. All right, this is similar to making a pie crust in your food processor because the more you run the blades, it starts collecting together and it turns into like a big blob of dough. Okay, I think I'm going to add just a tiny bit more. To the top of that. I'll let you see what this looks like. See how it's collected on the sides. See that one big bowl of dough just kind of rolling around in there. And when it gets to that point, we're done. And the best thing about this food processor, other than the capacity that it holds, is the blade is so incredibly sharp. So that's, that's the best thing about this food processor. You know what the worst thing is? That blade is really, really sharp. I mean, I may or may not have experience with going, oh, I forgot that was sharp. All right, this is what the dough looks like. I'm going to get that blade out of there. It has a handle in it. I almost hesitate to even wipe anything off with my finger because, man, it'll get you. Now, I'm going to let this dough relax. If you know anything about my baking technique, I'm all about letting that dough sit for a while, get it to relax, because really and truly, even though I've just beat the fire out of it with this food processor, with adding the liquid to it, those granules have not absorbed that liquid yet. It's kind of like a sponge. You don't just put a drop of water or put a tablespoon of water on a sponge and start scrubbing things. You let it hydrate and you let that sponge relax before you start scrubbing things. And that's the way flour works. Even though the particles of flour are so teeny tiny, that water still has to get in there to the center of it. And the more you can allow it to get in there, the more it relaxes and the easier it is to work with. By far, it's easier to work with. If I start trying to roll this out right now, it would just be fighting me the whole way. This is also why we always keep our countertops clean, because you never know when you're going to be putting your food directly on it to need to roll it out or separate it or something. Okay, everything's out of the bowl. It's clean. And I'm going to put this in some kind of container. I think I might put it in just a bag that I normally keep dough in. I'll see if that's occupied right now. Nope, got it available. I keep this well-oiled produce bag. Actually, I think they're bread bags is what they're called. Keep that in my fridge. And I'm going to keep that in there. I'm going to leave this sitting on the counter for at least an hour. So, let's see. That'll put me right close to noon, and we'll come back and roll this out, and we'll let it sit for a while. After we roll it out, we're going to score it, slice it up, put it on parchment lined baking sheets, and place it in the lower oven or just someplace out of the way where it can't get dusty, can't get a breeze blowing on it, you know, any different air temperature or anything. We want to kind of keep it humid. So I put mine in my lower oven, which there's nothing baking in there right now, and it's not warm, but I can turn the light on and warm it up. So we'll turn the light on, get a little bit warm, get a little bit humid in there, and let it rise just a tiny bit for a few hours, and then we'll bake those off. Maybe about the time we get ready to heat up some supper or bake something in the oven later on and cook those. So it's kind of an all-day process. It doesn't have to be, but with me, I like for that dough to rest. So we'll be back in just a bit, and real quick for you, not for me, and I'll show you how we're going to finish these up. These are so stinking good. I know I say that about a lot of things, but I'm telling you what, if I open up that pantry and that glass jar, big glass canning jar of crackers is there, I'm going to have me one just while I'm thinking about what I'm in there looking for. So anyway, we'll be back in just a bit. Okay, we're back. I have several things I got done, and got my food processor cleaned up. We're taking this out of this bag. And I'm going to cut this in half. I don't think that this is, I'll show you about how big this is. I'm going to cut this in half because I know I can't fit all this on one baking sheet. I'm going to put a little bit of flour on the counter. I think you could honestly put these through like a pasta roller, which would be great. You'd get a super thin cracker. You'd have to cut these down into smaller sections because it's too much. You'd have a, you know, piece of dough 4 feet long before you knew it. But I don't mind rolling it out for right now. The only thing I would say is try to get it as evenly rolled out as you can throughout the whole surface. In other words, don't have a thin edge and a thick center, because when you cut these out, these will bake real dark. Those will be a lot lighter. So the more consistent you can get in the thickness overall, the more even your browning will be on them. Okay, I'm trying to get this about the size of my parchment. Okay, that looks pretty good. As you can see, this handles beautifully. It's not flimsy. It's not one of those things you go, oh, everybody rolls out dough except for me. Mine always messes up. This is not messing up, and I am not a genius by any stretch of the imagination. If it's going to break, it's probably going to break on me too, but this dough seems to be a good consistency. Okay, I'm going to transfer this over here like this. Like voila. Have some hanging over the edge, so I'll have to take care of those. I think I had referenced this earlier, but this will rise a tiny bit, but mainly when you're baking it, you're not going to look in there after a while and these things be that thick. It's going to rise just a tiny bit. Think of like a Cheez-It or a Ritz cracker. It's just a little puffed on the top, so it's not going to be huge. All right, I'm just going to cut these with this bench scraper. You can do a pizza wheel. It really depends on what size you want them to be, and mine are just going to be random, you know, shapes and sizes. And if you want to cut these out in cute cookie cutters, that's fine too. We eat these too fast. I honestly don't think anybody notices that there is a shape to it, or that there's not a shape to it really when I make these, because I've never taken the time to make anything fancy with them. Sometimes I use a fork to make tiny holes in them, and sometimes I skip that step. But the nice thing about it is I don't have an oven preheating right now, so it's not like I'm in this huge hurry to hurry up and get them cut out and get something else done, because I'm not going to bake these off for, I don't know, 3 or 4 hours. I'm really not in a big hurry. Okay, I don't know if I can fit these on there or not, but I'm going to give it a try. Put enough flour on your countertop just to keep it from sticking, but you don't necessarily want like big areas of flour to be on the crackers. There's really no need for it. Have to cut all the way through, just kind of score it, because once they're baked and they cool, they just snap apart very, very easily. Okay, get a fork and poke little holes in the top of those. And if you're not careful, they will come up, so I usually try to put my hand on the one that I'm poking, and try not to poke the top of my finger off. All these are going to do is just let the air escape out if there's steam built up in the crackers themselves when they're baking, and that way it doesn't puff up and make too big of a dome on the top. But this is not essential. It's not a must. Okay, I think I have them all poked. I'm going to put these in the lower oven. Borrow a rack from the top oven and put down here so I can put them both in here. Okay, those are going to rest. If any of you are ever wondering, does she ever use that bottom oven? I rarely do. It's more for letting bread rise in the wintertime. It stores my pizza stones, it stores my iron skillet, things like that. Do I regret spending that much money on a double oven? Absolutely not, because if I didn't have that, I'd have to try to figure out someplace else to put things when they're rising and all that. So it has come into very good use. But in cases where we have a big crowd here, then yes, I do use the lower oven for baking. So it works perfectly fine, but I just don't use it as much as I use the upper oven because it has all my pizza stones and stuff in it. So anyway, okay, we'll come back later. I'll show you what these look like after they've risen for a few hours. And then, of course, I'll show you a final product after we bake them off. So we'll be back. Okay, we're back. It is much later on in the afternoon. It's after 4 o'clock. And our sourdough crackers have been in the lower oven. Oh, just in time. Our sourdough crackers have been in the oven, and I'll show you one from the side. They're just not puffed up that much. You just can't expect them to puff up right now. They'll do it a little bit once they bake, but I'll show you what I'm talking about. Okay, 2 pans of crackers. I have the oven set at 350 degrees, and I'm going to leave those in there for maybe 15 minutes or so. I'll check and see if they're done then, and I'll turn the camera back on, and I'll let you look and see what they look like when they come out of the oven. Hopefully I won't burn them this time. Whew. Timer's fixing to go off. I think 15 minutes must have been the perfect time. I'm going to show you what these look like. That looks pretty good to me. And I'm going to store them in the bottom oven. Oh, I have one tiny one right here that got really dark. See right here on the corner? Ouch, that's hot. That's really nice. I don't think they're as sweet as the last ones I made, but these are going to be good. Okay, recipes in the description as always, and make some of these. I think you're going to get a kick out of these. These are so fun. Put it in a glass jar. It keeps for a long time. We look forward to sharing something again with you real soon. Bye, guys.